everybody, today I'm doing my May wrap-up. Since this is part of my TBR game, it's going to have two parts. The first part is going to be the character story, and the second part is going to be a quick run-through of the books that I read in May. So there will be a timestamp down below if you want to see either of those two parts specifically, but let's go ahead and get started.
Once upon a time, 7 souls woke up to find they were missing their body. They didn't recognize where they were, and they could barely remember who they were supposed to be. Most of the glowing souls started to drift about in search of their bodies, but some were slower than others, and some went back to sleep, not ready to face this discovery quite yet. One of these souls, a bright green ball of energy, seemed at once to realize the distressing nature of her situation. She set off in search of anything that could help her. She appeared to be in a garden of some sort, with huge overgrown trees and flowers that were bright and beautiful. She stopped to sniff a rose and remembered her name, Sabriel. Upon this discovery, her shape seemed to shift and grow a little taller and not quite so bright. Around the giant garden, other souls were making similar progress. Sam, Inej, Dagny, and Coswell had all remembered their names, although not anything else. The most frustrating question being, how did they get here? The souls converged and wandered, and although they were sure they didn't know each other in life before this, they now were certain they were connected. They realized the garden was very large, but closed in, and they couldn't pass through the gates that blocked them. Trapped by something, and bodiless, they found 2 souls who still seemed to be dormant, and sat down to piece as much together as they could.
Alright, so now that you've seen the character story, let's see the books that I read for each. So remember, any books that I gave a 5-star review to gets a point towards that genre if and when I battle a monster. Any 1-star reviews or unhauls gives a point to the monster in that category. So our first genre is my fantasy series. I read 3 books, which was the highest category or genres that I pulled. And the first one was Carson by Catherine Fisher. In this book, there is a prison that is alive and basically shut off to the rest of the world. Everybody who's in there just lives in there. It has cities and streets, markets, and the prison itself even like provides the food and shelter and is even known to create prisoners on its own. So one of the main characters is stuck in this prison. The other main character is a girl who is a princess and the daughter to the warden of this prison, and she also feels trapped in her life. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It was good, but I don't think it was anything special, and there are other series that I've read that were way better. So I may eventually finish this, but it's definitely not high on my priority. The next book in this group is One Dark Throne by Kendra Blake. This was one of my favorite reads this month. I read the first book, Three Dark Crowns, about 3 princesses. They all have a certain set of skills, and at the end of the Ascension year, only one of them can be queen, and they have to kill the other 2 to take that role. And so the first book kind of follows, just sets up, you get to know each of the princesses, they kind of start the festivities. This follows more of that year and them kind of starting to battle it out, and I really love the route that this one took. I did get a 4 out of 5 stars. I almost gave it 5 stars, but I feel like it wasn't quite as epic as I needed it to be. And the last book I read in this I actually did a review for, so you can find a link to that video down below, and that is Donna Spies by Andrew Lane. I kind of went into this not expecting to like it because when I read the back of the book it just seemed like there was too much going on. I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed the main characters. You can see more of it in my review. I did give it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I do hope to continue the series. I think this one set up a lot for the rest of the series, and I'm hoping that I just get a little bit more out of it. Moving on, I read one book in the romance genre, and that was The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I loved this book. It has a great representation. It sets up a really good love story. It's just a very cute, fun read that does a great job of discussing some harder issues. I did get to pull some extra cards, so you didn't see me draw a card for the graphic novel category, but I did end up reading extra books, and this is one of them. This is The Adventure Zone, Here There Be Goblins. And if you follow the McElroy brothers, they have a podcast. They have several podcasts. They have My Brother and Me, Sawbone. They have a D&D, I'm not sure if it's a podcast or a YouTube channel, but they have a lot of things going on, and I love their style of humor, and you could really see their style of humor come out in this graphic novel. It follows their D&D campaign with like their actual characters, so you get a lot of the sass from the brothers, and their father is actually one of the characters in this as well. So if you like D&D or the McElroy brothers, this is a good read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars as well. So the next book could have been in a few different categories, but I put it in my fantasy genre, and it is The Best of John Belair. So it is actually a collection of his first 3 stories in this series, and those were The House with a Clock in Its Walls, The Figure in the Shadows, and The Letter, the Witch, and the Ring. So I'm pretty sure The House with a Clock in Its Walls became a movie, which I haven't seen. I didn't actually enjoy this book as much as I'd hoped to when I realized that it was one of the ones being made into a movie. It follows a boy, and his parents have passed away, and so he moves in with his uncle, and his uncle happens to be a warlock. I really did not like how they portrayed the main character. He, in the book, is described as being a chunky kid, and they just kept bringing it up. It'd be like, well, I can't run because I'm too fat, and I can't do this because I'm overweight. It was just a constant thing, and it never was a positive way. I did not appreciate that. So I think I gave this a 2 stars. I may be unhauling it. This may be a point towards future monsters. I also read in my short story category 50 great short stories. This actually counts as 2 points to that character since it is a lot of short stories. And it was really good. It had a lot of the classics like The Little Mermaid, The Little Match Girl, which was one of my favorites, The Emperor's New Clothes. It also had a lot of folk stories and mythology from different cultures that I hadn't read yet. So it was a really good way to kind of see those stories again. Really quick read. Definitely love it. It does say for 7 to 9-year-olds. I don't know why. You only get 2 years to read this book, but I would recommend it to anybody. I also had one more series that I started. I counted this as an other instead of a fantasy, and that is A Series of Unfortunate Events. I got this at a used bookstore. You can tell it's kind of beat up, but it is the first 3 in the collection, and I really enjoyed them. They are dark, and I had heard that before, but I wasn't expecting how dark they really were, and I'm excited to continue this. I don't know if I'll read all 14 right away. I'm kind of probably just going to slowly work my way through them because there are other series that I really want to get to. But I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I am excited to continue to read it. I also had one in my mystery thriller category, and that was Beware of the Purple Peanut Butter by R.L. Stine. This poor book is fallen apart. It's taped up, but it is a beautiful book. It is a choose your own adventure and had 20 different endings, and I went through all of them. And I was very surprised by the variety. There's a lot of different things that happen here, but the start of this is a kid who goes into the basement and is hungry and finds an old fridge in his aunt's house, and it has 2 foods that he can choose from. And so you start by choosing either the cake or the peanut butter. I had 2 historical fiction books. I think I drew one of them actually after as well. The first one was A Journey to a New World. This is a diary of Remember Patience Whipple, and she is a girl who rides across on the Mayflower, and then it follows her not only on the Mayflower, but her first year in Plymouth. It was a really cute book. I think it may be hard to read for the audience that it's targeting because there are so many big vocabulary words that it uses and specific to that time, which is great, but also could make it difficult. I also read Cirque, and I loved this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a little bit slow in places, but it was really fun to get to kind of retell all this mythology through the eyes of Cirque, because usually it's done through a god or a hero or a demigod, and I never read it from this perspective before as many times as I have kind of gone through the mythology of it all, and I really liked seeing her take on it. There is a trigger warning for this. There is a rape in this book. It isn't described very much in detail, and it's towards the end of the book, but yeah, there is a warning if you're going to read that. But I think this was a really well done book. Finally, I had 3 kids books to go towards the pets. I had Ghouls Don't Scoop Ice Cream by Debbie Daly, The Reaction, part of the Animorph series by K.A. Applegate, and If I Were in Charge of the World and Other Worries by Judith Forst, and this is a poetry set. I rated them pretty middle of the road. And lastly, I have 2 books that I read that weren't part of my TBR game. The first was The Book Thief, which is a 5-star read and always will be. This is a reread for me. It's probably the 4th or 5th time I've read this book, and I still get choked up. It is absolutely beautiful writing. Highly, highly, highly recommend. It is stunning and beautiful and so sad, but so worth it. And that is by Marcus Zusak. So this was my book club read. I also listened to Carry On, which I don't have the book. I listened to it as an audiobook. I'm trying to start getting into audiobooks more. I usually listen to podcasts if I'm like on a long trip, and so I never really got into audiobooks, but I'm gonna try. So those were the books that I read. I hope you enjoyed not only the character stories, but getting to see a quick rundown of the books. Let me know if you'd like to see anything different as far as formatting, or if you have any predictions about where the characters are actually headed. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye.